Who gon' take it there? 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 Electricity, 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 electricity. You know what's in the air. 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 It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility.
All right, so Sean Hannity happened to have the opposition leader of Venezuela on his show on Fox News last night. This is the first time that anyone has had a major interview with her since this whole operation happened to kidnap Maduro in the middle of the night and essentially leave a power vacuum in Venezuela, although that has been filled by the vice president, who is now the acting president, meaning that Maduro's government is still intact as it was. And many people would have assumed that Trump was going to go with the opposition leader, Machado, who he has had some association with in the past. She was kept off the ballot in the previous election where Maduro's win was contested. And she has been very chummy with Donald Trump and his administration, except now it seems like he doesn't like her anymore and doesn't want her to be in charge of Venezuela. The reason why may have something to do with the fact that she won a Nobel Peace Prize and he didn't. So here's Sean Hannity asking her a little bit about that, and then we'll get into some more of what we know about the current situation.
And tell us, I mean, it's not very usual that people will dedicate the Nobel Peace Prize to the leader of a different country and say publicly, he deserves this more than I do. But you did that.
Let me be very clear. As soon as I learned that we had been awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, I dedicated it to President Trump because I believed at that point that he deserved it. And a lot of people, most people said it was impossible to achieve what he has just done on Saturday, January 3rd. So if I believed he deserved it on October, imagine now. I think he has proven to the world what he means. I mean, January 3rd will go down in history as the day justice defeated a tyranny. It's a milestone, and it's not only huge for the Venezuelan people and our future. I think it's a huge step for humanity, for freedom and human dignity.
Have you spoken with President Trump since then?
I spoke with President Trump on October 10th, the same day the prize was announced. Not since then, but I do want to say today, on behalf of the Venezuelan people, how grateful we are for his courageous vision, the actions, historical actions he has taken against this narco-terrorist regime to start dismantling this structure and bringing Maduro to justice, which means that 30 million Venezuelans are now closer to freedom, but also that the United States of America is a safer country nowadays.
Right. Did you at any point offer to give him the Nobel Peace Prize? Did that actually happen? I had read that somewhere. I wasn't sure if it was true.
Well, it hasn't happened yet, but I certainly would love to be able to personally tell him that we believe the Venezuelan people, because this is a prize of the Venezuelan people, certainly want to give it to him and share it with him. What he has done, as I said, is historic. It's a huge step towards a democratic transition. And I want to convey this to the American people, Sean. A free Venezuela means, first, a security ally, dismantling the criminal hub of the Americas and turning it into a security shield. You know, the strongest ally to dismantle all these criminal structures that have made, so much damage and harm to our people and to the American people as well. Secondly, we will turn Venezuela into the energy hub of the Americas. We will bring rule of law. We will open markets. We will give security to foreign investment. And third, we will bring millions of Venezuelans that have been forced to flee our country back home.
Yeah, so you can see one of the main things that Sean Hannity takes an interest in here is whether or not she ever explicitly offered to give Trump her Nobel Peace Prize, as well as highlighting the fact that she already had dedicated it to him, and I believe she reaffirmed that recently. But she also reveals here that she hasn't talked to Trump since October when she initially accepted that prize. So that implies that the second she decided she was going to take that prize and not explicitly turn it over to him and say, I'm giving this prize to Trump, or I'm refusing to accept it because you're not giving it to Donald Trump, that made him essentially decide that they're not friends anymore. And he's upset at her because of that, and apparently was putting pressure on her to give him that prize in that way. So, I mean, just think about how bizarre this is. The fact that this is being leveraged, a Nobel Peace Prize, Trump just wants it to be handed over to him. He wants a Nobel Peace Prize, and then probably had every intention of carrying out this war maneuver anyway. I mean, can you imagine if they did give him the Nobel Peace Prize and then he did this shortly after? And it almost seems like his intention is to degrade the Nobel Peace Prize. Like he wants to get it without having to do anything for peace. Very bizarre. And this whole idea of peace through strength, like they're just going to create a bunch of proxies all throughout South America, even more so than we already have. We're going to cut off the heads of governments throughout Latin America that we don't like, and that is going to be what peace means somehow. So, I mean, this roaring return to a very outdated, still present, but mostly outdated form of American politics, as he's calling it now, the Don Roe Doctrine, is just, it's a wide gamble. He's essentially using all of the leverage that America has all at once, throwing it all into this gamble of, you know, going after these different countries. We haven't seen how far he's going to take it yet. There is some backlash starting to bubble over this, and it does depend on where things go in Venezuela from here. If this turns out to be a disaster that they're dealing with for a while, you know, it's hard to imagine them wanting to keep doing that, although maybe that's exactly what they want to do. I don't know. But the point of doing this gamble, and what it really seems like Trump is trying to do here, is he wants to just control all of these natural resources. Anybody that has large oil reserves or minerals, any type of resources that are valuable, Trump just wants that land. That's the nature of the deals he was trying to strike with Ukraine. That seems to be what his interest in Greenland is, as well as these different places through Latin America. He just wants to control these territories, control the resources, so he can ultimately get a cut, but also so that it can be folded into this broader project of like monopolistic American capitalism. And it's helpful, honestly, to think of this Nobel Peace Prize thing, and just in general Trump's habit of taking credit for things like that, comparing that to the way that his real estate deals and his brand, his name brand, tends to work anyway, because it's usually just a front. So, you know, he wants the Nobel Peace Prize as a brand on top of essentially what are these, you know, forcible colonialization deals that he wants to make with places like Greenland, and he gets a cut of it. And as long as he gets a cut and the resources flow behind the scenes, then he doesn't really care about what the actual optics of the situation are or what it means to get a Nobel Peace Prize. It's all sort of a function of his ability to secure control of these different aspects of foreign policy. And so I think that that's really all this comes down to with Machado as well, is that he just wants to control the situation. And so I think even turning it over to somebody who's willing to kiss his ass all the time, for some reason, is not that appealing to him. And he would rather have a more tense relationship with this vice president who he feels that he can maybe elicit more fear out of. Maybe he feels that because he can hold this threat of going in there and killing her at any time, that is a more advantageous position that for him to be in. He feels that's possible, that the tension there works in his favor. I think most of this is instinct when it comes to Trump. And I will say that, and I said this the last time, that, you know, his decision to keep that government in place could go a long way in terms of keeping things stable. And it seems like kind of laziness more than anything else. But could be a better decision than just installing this resistance movement. And it's an interesting move that he says that she doesn't have the legitimacy in the country to lead it, because that's the opposite narrative that much of the media has been trying to paint, including, Trump's side of the media. This is their guy. This is their resistance to Maduro. That's the whole reason they were there. They were set up for this, to be able to take power from him. And yet Trump is decided that he would rather keep the revolutionaries in place, at least insofar as that's what they were. So that is where I think things could get interesting here, because the rhetoric and the technique that they have established so far is that they want a sort of guerrilla response, or the people of Venezuela to be ready to strike, go out in the streets, that sort of thing. So it's kind of this revolutionary flourish to politics, and we've seen now that in the face of like a real large-scale military assault, they were not able to mount, any type of real defense. It would have been impossible for them to do so. But what they do have the power to do, especially in the face of this oil debacle that is no doubt going to take place over a long period of time, is withhold their labor. And so this is a government and a system of leadership that is not opposed to saying that to people, that they should withhold their labor. And Maduro did, in fact, say that recently before this whole thing happened. And so now his vice president, who is now the acting president, is going to have to balance both being under an enormous amount of pressure from Trump to do what they want, and obviously that's going to be the path of least resistance on the front end, but also they have to try to hold this coalition together in their country that is based on this revolutionary concept that goes against certainly having, the Americans come in and take your oil and privatize outside of Venezuela. So that's where she's going to be under a lot of pressure to maintain this revolutionary edge, and that may very well be unsustainable. And certainly killing her, swooping her out of there and arresting her is not going to make the situation any more stable. So what I imagine Trump wants to do is leave it exactly where it's at, not have to deal with it too much other than, just ordering them around when it comes to this oil project and moving on to the next military thing. But if this becomes a destabilization process, then, it's essentially just going to become an annoyance for Trump. And at some point, he's probably going to regret that he did it. So that's the most likely option, because these things are never as simple as we want them to be. The only thing that I guess could make it go that way is that, Venezuela, just like anybody, has seen this happen a million times and doesn't want that to happen to their country either. So it's possible that not only the leadership but also the people of Venezuela are mostly going to go along with this oil grab for the sake of stability, because we're at a point where nobody in the world is trying to hold together the stability of the world if it's not the people. So that's where, on a broad scale, we have a choice to make of if we're going to allow for this type of oil grabbing, blatant colonialism, the kind of thing that we've all been saying we're against for a long time now. Are we going to continue as normal and allow capitalism to absorb this nationalized set of resources that, in theory, having something like that, large oil reserves like that, sort of off the market and in control of a country that is not the sort of monopoly system of the United States, is good for the market. It's good for the general balance of power in the world for an entity that's not America and not existing in the sort of capitalist fold of American globalism, because that, creates some actual competition on the market, as well as definitely creating other problems. So now the direction we're going in is that that's just going to be fully privatized, and that's what the people like Machado and the resistance movement want. They want full capitalization of these resources, and they're perfectly happy to pimp it all out to America as long as they can get a cut and sort of get credit for it. And I think Fox News and outlets like that are going to struggle with this narrative of the fact that Trump isn't going with these resistance fighters and is leaving the Maduro government in place. That doesn't seem like what they wanted to have happened, and just another instance where Trump is kind of confounding them. And as far as the case with Nicolas Maduro, it's hard to see where that's going to go. They have these charges that were brought up on Maduro in 2020, and it mostly has to do with drug trafficking. They've added on some gun charges, which is weird. I'm not sure how America is charging the president of Venezuela under American gun laws, something about owning machine guns and trafficking cocaine. That's what they have put in black and white, charging Maduro with. So this will be a real test of how strong of a case they're actually, able to bring. We know in the case of James Comey and even Letitia James from New York that these are not strong cases. They're trying to do their best. They're stretching this thing about mortgage fraud. Maybe they'll kind of have something there, but really they're just trying to go after them for anything that they can in a way that's pretty sloppy. So it seems kind of the same here, and it's not clear what exactly happens at that point. If they fail to convict Maduro, he just goes back. He's still saying, I'm the president of Venezuela, and if they're leaving his government intact there, then that would be theoretically a scenario that he could walk back into if they are saying they're demanding for him to be back. It's also not hard to imagine Trump saying, the number one non-negotiable is that Maduro's not in power anymore and elections, blah, blah, blah. Given that Marco Rubio is at the helm of these negotiations, it's likely that it'll be something along those lines. But to me, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be able to get Maduro on these charges. The Trump DOJ doesn't really seem like they're that motivated by the facts, and they're charging him in the Southern District of New York, as far as I know. So that just doesn't seem like something they're going to be able to get away with their usual bullshitting. So we'll see. This is going to take place for a long time. There's still Epstein stuff happening and more Epstein files that are going to come out soon. So we're not done talking about that. And luckily, this has not immediately turned into some kind of disastrous conflict in Venezuela, and we'll see what happens. This court case is the main thing to keep our eye on, as well as if there's going to be some kind of large-scale strike in Venezuela, which could be a major game changer for this situation.
Me too close to, too much to do. The mission is too crucial. Shout it out from the rooftops until I lose vocals. Who gon' take it there? 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 Electricity, 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 electricity.